Good morning, Patreon. It's Bear. You know who it is. You're paying good money to be here, and I thank you for it. Man, the cover charge makes quite the difference in the attitude of the crowd, doesn't it? So I've gotten a bajillion and one emails and requests and comments and Patreon messages about, hey Bear, please talk about drones and SHTF. I must know. So I believe Digital Alchemy was the last person that emailed me about it, so I will credit him in this video, but I've gotten honestly dozens, if not 100 emails to this effect over the last 6 months or so. So a few caveats. First, I don't own any drones. Second, I don't operate any drones. Third, I have operated in environments where there are drones and they have been used to support and perpetuate the mission. 4, my experience, my opinions, your mileage may vary. So, and I guess 5, I am working with somebody to get another windshield mount for this phone. I want a RAM mount because Oki Storm Chaser told me they're the best. I don't want to pay for a RAM mount. I want RAM Mount to give me one, and then I can say, this video brought to you by RAM Mount. If you want a badass windshield mount for your iPhone, you should go to rammount.com, so saith the bear. So Monica's working on that, but until such a time as that happens, I will hold this phone like so. Drones and SHTF. I think there's a couple different ways to look at this. The first is you're on foot or mobile. You're in the field operating with all of your knife hands like this. And the second is you're operating from a fixed position. So if you are man portable, this is going to mean a small drone and small drone support infrastructure. Spare batteries, small solar panel to recharge said batteries, so forth and so on. If you are vehicle-borne operations, this could be a larger drone UAV. Probably not Predator-sized, because I don't think that any of us here can afford one of those. If you can, call me. I miss you. I love you. Let's be friends. Wink, wink. But on a vehicle-borne mission, right, you can take something a little bit bigger because you have vehicles to carry the weight of the support infrastructure for said drones. And then you get to fixed base operations, which would definitely be in the Predator category, and down from there. I mean, they make these things that are the size of hummingbirds that are drones. So it could be anything up to and including very large UAVs. Not to be confused with UFOs. But, so you got to look at what your application is and what you're trying to do with it. If you're out on foot, we're bugging out, man, or we're patrolling or whatever, having a small drone could be very beneficial, because in some cases, rather than walking up over the side of this hill and seeing if there's bad guys waiting for us, we could fly the drone up over the side of this hill, hopefully at a high enough altitude that it can't be seen or heard, and see that, hey, there's bad guys waiting for us. Intel gathering, man. Tactical intel gathering, in the moment, in situ, where we are right now. And then strategic intel gathering. Hey, fly that thing over to Bill's house. How many vehicles are over there? How many people do you see milling around? Do they still have goats, or do they eat those goats? How many cows do they have? How high does their stock tank look like it is? Hey, is the water above that road? Can we even get to it? Well, they laid a couple of trees over the road, blah, 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 blah. And that is one of the areas where I think drones excel. So if you're on foot, having one that's small enough that you can carry it around in your pack could definitely make sense, especially if there's, here comes that T word that everybody loves to hate, if you're on a team where you have somebody who has a specialty on that team as they are the drone operator, and then they have a backup, so you have redundancy. You know, like you always want to have 2 weapons sergeants, right? 2 commo guys, so forth, so on, right? Have your primary drone guy or girl, your secondary drone guy or girl. And now, because we have specialization of labor, we can distribute our loads a little bit better. There's more of us, so maybe this guy, instead of carrying 14 magazines, he only carries 8 magazines, but he's got his drone, his little drone, and some backup batteries and a little Goal Zero folding solar panel kit, because he's the drone guy, so forth and so on. So tactically, I think that a small drone could make a lot of sense, assuming that it's quiet enough and it provides you actual operational capability, that it can talk back to whatever device it is that you have with you, you know, iPhone, Android, tablet, whatever. That makes a lot of sense. From base, you know, operating from a fixed position, it's all the same thing, just written larger. And we can look at our tactical situation on the ground, but we can also use that information to develop strategies in a strategic mindset of how do these things play out long term, not just right now short term, but next week, next month, next year, long term. So all that comes back to intel gathering, which I think is where most people go when they think of drones. And you can get into the weeds on, should it have a camera? Yes, it should have a camera. Should it be FLIR or infrared? Depends. What about thermal? What about this? What about that? And you're going to know that better for your situation and your budget and your application than I am to pontificate in the seat of an F-150 shooting from the hip. So the long and short is, yeah, it should have a camera on it, and your ability to see at night with that drone, just like your ability to see at night with anything else, is going to greatly multiply your ability to perform said tasks efficiently and appropriately without getting artificially ventilated. So, yeah. Should I be able to see at night? Yes. Yes is the answer. Yes. Well, what if I can't afford one? Like, I don't know. Figure it out. If you have a team, take up an offering, pass around the old ball cap for the drone, and make it happen. One of the things that I've been thinking about with this here lately is hunting. If you live in an area like I do that's kind of a patchwork quilt of forest and field, and your lines of sight aren't very long in a lot of ways, how cool would it be to be able to fly the drone and say, oh yeah, there's whitetail just on the other side of this ridge line. See, we're gonna go over this fence. That's okay, because that piece of property belongs to the Johnsons, and we have their expressed permission to be on their property and hunt this area. So we're gonna go over this fence, through this tree line here, and you can see from this tree line to where this group of whitetail are. So it's probably about 200 yards, which is not an issue because we got our old 243 with us. Bang, 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 meat in the freezer. Let's go about our business. Rather than, say, ambush hunting or stalking, hoping to find a deer, wouldn't it be nice to know to have actual intel on where they are? So that's something that I've been thinking about. Well, I've been standing in my stand the last week or so, seeing trespassing dogs and snakes and field mice and a hawk and grackles and owls and one rabbit and several deer that refused to come out of the tree line into the field where I was trying to shoot them. Well, let's be honest, where I was trying to murder them so that I could eat them. So, and that's another story for another time. So hunting, which all comes back to intel gathering, which we could think about troop movements, getting back to our strategic lines of effort. What are we going to do with this intel? Who is moving where, what? Can we develop patterns? Can we see that every Tuesday at 10 a.m. that person with the gray car goes from this place to that place? That's useful information. Where are they going? Well, maybe you can't follow the entire car, but they always head out north. And because we've done our homework and we have maps actually printed out, and I get the question a lot lately, which is great. Hunt Stand is the name of the company that we get our maps from Hunt, the word hunt, the word stand, smashed together, Hunt Stand. And they have, you can use the promo code BEAR, B-E-A-R, should get you 10% off their maps. Their maps are not cheap, and I have never said that they're cheap, but they are very good. And I have several of their maps, which is why I was comfortable having the promo code BEAR at their website. They're very good. So because you actually have done an area study and have your maps and have worked up the intel in your area, you know whose gray car that is, and you know that when they leave north on this road that there's only so many places that they can go north on this road, and then that allows you to narrow the scope of probability of what's likely going on in this situation, which allows you to react with more certainty to whatever may arise given that gray car at 10 a.m. on Tuesday morning every week going north. All of which can work back to drones. One of the things that I've been thinking about with drones is resupply. Depending on the size of the drone that you have, you can hook stuff to it. Maybe not a lot of stuff, but stuff. You know, I'm pretty fond of saying that the Black Hawk is not coming for you. No one is lowering the winch line for you, bro. But maybe the drone is coming if you are in the field operating. And we're back at the fob, and you'll radio in, you're like, hey, Bob is out of 2032 batteries for his freaking dot site again. Do we have any? Yeah, we'll fly the drone. Here it comes. So forth, so on. You know, it can't be a lot of weight, but maybe it's water treatment tabs. Maybe it's quick clot. Maybe it's intel. Maybe it's a sheaf of papers. Maybe it's radio batteries. Maybe it's whatever. But that's something to think about. If you have a large enough drone that can actually carry a load, then you can use that to resupply, and you can also use that to emplace. One of the things that I've talked about with people whom shall remain nameless is, and this is not a suggestion because I'm not sure the legality of this, but there's this stuff called tannerite that will explode if you shoot it. And in a hypothetical world, if one was to take, hot sauce bottles and duct tape them around said tannerite and then shoot it, you could be making your own basically mace/tear gas, which would probably be highly illegal. So I would not recommend doing that. But if you had a 1 pound canister of tannerite and 1 pound of chili powder or hot sauce or whatever, and that way 2 pounds, and a drone was capable of carrying that load, it could hypothetically be emplaced strategically around one's property to mitigate the movement of an opposing force as they come across said property. When they come into this area, you could shoot it and or have a mechanical triggering device, which would then make said concoction that does not exist because it's probably illegal explode and have a severe detrimental effect on the opposing force without ever having to go out in the field, because you could emplace things. So that's something to consider in a hypothetical world. Electronic warfare and critical infrastructure. I can't tell you how, but I'll just tell you it's really low tech to pop the fuses on distribution wires on your local electrical grid. Really low tech. Research what a dead short is, or a short to ground. If you had a drone and a drone could carry something, just saying, and I'm not advocating that you do any of this. Signal jamming. Can you hook a jammer, battery powered jammer, up to that drone and fly it into an area to intercept and or disperse outgoing signals? Can you catch outgoing signals and repeat them from said drone? I don't know, but it's something to think about. So moving along, because this video is already going long, I've had people who have called me and wanted to know if I would be on the board of their corporation that's being developed to purchase large swaths of land and build SHTF retreats and blah, 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 blah. And as part of their security plan was to have drones mounted with Glock 19s on them with electric actuators to patrol the perimeter. I'm not on the board of this company, and I'm not going to tell you who they are or where they are, but I would just say if you live in the northwestern quadrant of the United States and you've been thinking about joining a preparedness community, you might email me first, because I got a lot of intel on these people and I'm not loving it. I'm not loving it. So, but what do I know? What do I know? If you have a drone, you need all the support infrastructure to operate said drone. And what is the PMCS on a drone? Preventative maintenance, and the C word and the S word. Something schedule? Y'all know. Put it in the comments. What is the PMCS on this drone? I don't know. Are the rotor blades only good for every 300 hours and then you got to swap them, and this bearing needs to be lubed with this oil at such a time and with the blah, blah, blah? I don't know. I have no idea. And I'm sure it varies from drone to drone, but that's something that you need to know. And then you need redundancy built into your systems. That if we really want to have 2 drones, we should actually have 3. And if we really want to have 1 drone, we should actually have 2. And they should be parts compatible and use the same batteries and the same chargers and the same bearings and the same blah, 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 blah. Which means that you need to have all of those things and know how to do all of those things before the freaking balloon goes up, not try and figure it out on the worst day of your life. And you need a way to support said infrastructure. So you need a way to charge batteries, whether that's solar or with a fossil fuel generator or wind power, hydroelectric, whatever, from your car battery, an alternator, whatever. But you need a way to do that, and you need it before you implement the system. And then you need people cross-trained on how to do this, how to operate the drone. We touched on that earlier when you're putting your team together. How do you actually fly this thing? What happens when it gets outside of its radius of radio frequency and it can't communicate back? What happens if you crash it? What happens to this drone if it falls into enemy hands? Blah, 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 blah. In what weathers can we fly this thing and can we not fly this thing? What are our ideal windows of opportunity to make use of this drone? And what are the mission parameters with which we would employ this drone? And if so, why? What ball are we actually trying to move down what field? How does this support the mission? Which comes back to knowing what the freaking mission is in the first place. And then who's going to operate it? Because if Ronnie's our drone operator and he gets his thumbs shot off in a horrendous firefight and he can no longer operate drones because he doesn't have thumbs anymore, who's going to take over for him? Right? So all of that needs to be figured out. The same as it would be figured out with our medical personnel, our weapons experts, our commo guys, our blah, 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 blah. Okay? Same thing with drones. So cross-train on that. And then what kind of countermeasures? Well, for me, number 6 shot in a 28-inch 12-gauge barrel seems to be pretty good for drones if they're close enough that you can see them or hear them. I know that there are, I believe, people who are training Falcons and Hawks as anti-drone animals, systems, whatever you want to call it. They're not personnel because they're freaking birds. So I guess it's an anti-drone system, a hawk-based anti-drone system. The HBADS, hawk-based anti-drone system. Bro, have you seen those new HBADS? They're sick. There we go. So maybe you need to train up some HBADS. I don't know. I really don't know. But I think a big part of dronage is employing stealth and being tactically responsible with them so that they aren't lost. And what's your range of operation? I mean, you need to know that. Is this thing good for 500 meters, 200 meters, 200 feet, 3 miles? How far away can this thing go? And then also think about this. Triangulation. You're emitting signals, right? And so somebody undoubtedly out there is capable of gathering those signals that you're emitting. And if you emit from the same place often enough, they can triangulate your position. So that's something to think about as well. So that's my thoughts on drones. Again, I'm not a drone owner. I'm not a drone operator, but I have been around drones. They have been employed on missions that I have been on, both humanitarian relief effort and otherwise, and I'm a fan of them. But I can see more of the strategic use of, rather than the tactical nuts, bolts, screws. When you use the JS2000K, what you want to make sure is, I have no idea. I have no idea about the JS2000K or any other drone, but I can see the bigger overall picture of how these would fit into a battle space and how they would allow you as a preparedness-minded individual to perpetuate normalcy for yourself and your crew when things get a little sideways. So I hope that this video was helpful. I would love to hear your comments down below as to how you would use drones, what I got right, what I got wrong. I'm very interested in your comments. So shalom and blessings, Patreon. Toodaloo.